My name is Zach. Well, that's not my real name, but when you hear my story, you'll understand why I want to stay anonymous. No, the title isn't a typo, and yes, it happened for real. Although it happened 2 years ago, I'm still pretty embarrassed about it. Where do I even begin? My family is the very definition of average. Dad was a warehouse manager, and Mom worked part-time as a real estate receptionist. There was just my mom, Dad, me, and my younger sister Chloe, in a standard 3-bedroom house in suburbia. My parents earned okay money, and us kids got average marks at school. Really nothing that remarkable about us, I'm sorry to report. I always thought my parents' relationship was rock solid. They were always laughing and joking, and we'd never see them fight or argue. I know my dad wasn't the most affectionate person, but my sister and I were evidence that they knew how to be intimate. I don't know how or when things changed, but Dad suddenly became rather cold and withdrawn. He would mope around the house when he wasn't at work and started to go to bed much earlier. Mom, on the other hand, started to be extra nice. She didn't normally make school lunches, but all of a sudden, a packed lunch was prepared every morning, brimming with treats that were normally reserved for special occasions. At first, Chloe and I didn't really notice much. Apart from Dad being a little distant, the extra attention was nice. But as the days turned to weeks and things hadn't gone back to normal, we started to wonder. One night after dinner, I asked Dad if there was something wrong. He grunted and left the table without saying a word. Mom just acted like everything was fine, which made us worry even more. A week or so later, I was at school in 3rd period. My friend James asked me how I went with my English essay that was due next period. I had completely forgot and left the assignment on my desk at home. During the next break, I left school to get it. I ran the whole way home, and as I turned down my street, I noticed a familiar car in the driveway. It was my Uncle Michael's car. My dad's older brother had the most distinctive vomit green VW bug you've ever seen. It was so old that you could generally hear it coming well before you saw it. While it was strange to see him visiting, it wasn't completely out of place. Dad had several siblings, and that side of the family remained close. When I ran up to the front door, I found it not closed completely. What I saw next will forever be burned into my brain. I really don't want to go into detail, but when I walked past the living room, I saw Mom and Uncle Michael going for it on the sofa where our family sits and watches TV. Mom froze in shock and tried to cover herself the best she could with some cushions, while Uncle Mike did a desperate dash for his clothes. My jaw dropped in disbelief, and I hightailed it to my room. I grabbed my essay and ran back out the front door. By this stage, my mom was mostly dressed and calling my name as she chased me out the front door. I was running at full pace by this stage and just ignored her as her calls faded in the distance. The rest of the school day was a bit of a blur. I said nothing to no one. Mom had called and left a bunch of messages on my phone, but I ignored them. I was going to tell Dad, even though I got the feeling he knew already. Instead of heading home after school that day, I walked the 14 blocks to the warehouse my dad worked at and told him everything. I really thought he'd be angrier, especially considering it was his brother. He just seemed sad. He said he knew that Mom had been having an affair. He just didn't know with who. He'd found some items around the house that didn't belong to any of us and had started to connect the dots. He was just devastated it was Michael. I told him that he needed to divorce Mom and cut Mike out of our lives forever. He sighed and said that family and love aren't that simple, and I'd understand when I'm older. I'm not 100% sure on the specifics, but my dad ended up staying in a hotel for a couple of weeks as he took some time away from Mom. Eventually, he returned and things felt pretty weird for a while, even though Mom promised us that it would never happen again, and apparently no one had heard from Michael since. It took months, but gradually, things began to return to normal around the house again, as their love slowly returned. I guess everyone makes mistakes, and I'd like to hope people can change.